Hi, my name is Gwen Mazza, and I am the host for The Art of Transitions. I'd like to thank you for attending our program today, and we're actually going to do a two-part series. And our guest is flown in from Santiago, Chile, and he's going to join us. His name is Sergio Moltes, and he's a wonderful friend and colleague of mine. So stay tuned, we'll be right back. Hi, welcome back to The Art of Transition. It's really great to see you, and I'm glad that you could join us. Sergio, who is a colleague of mine, is going to help us talk about a conversation regarding the transitioning through international businesses and culture. We're going to take a new shift into this program, really focusing on cultures and businesses and how it impacts us here in the Rochester area, as well as how it impacts South America. So on that note, please allow me to introduce Sergio. Sergio,
hello.
Welcome.
Hi, Gwen.
Nice to have you.
Yes.
Nice to have you. Would you take just a moment and share with the audience a little of your background in your business world so they can get to know you?
Okay, well, I live in Chile, in South America, and I'm a business consultant. I've been working in the business arena, I would say, for 25, 30 years. I was the general manager of a holding company in Chile who had different assets and different businesses. Some of them were in the tourist area, which is a hotel and a resort, in a ski resort called Valle Nevado. I was there the director, executive director, and then the general manager of that resort. Also in the financial area also we had some businesses, and tourist, financial, real estate, and before that I worked in a textile company, always in the marketing and management areas. And since about 2 years ago, I decided I would make a big switch in my life and become a servant leader. That's really, it's a change, and that is what how we have met really in my transition to this new world of giving back what I've learned and put it now as a servant, giving it to people, sort of. This is where I come from now.
Beautiful. I'd also like to take some time to share with our audience just the gift and how you and I had an opportunity to meet. One of the pieces we've talked about on this show on a number of occasions is how do we give back to the community? And this show really is about giving back to our community, the people who we live with, live amongst, and who are children and all of those around us, including in the world of work. Sergio and I, we actually got to meet
in Phoenix,
Arizona. We both participated in a program called Odyssey, which Odyssey is an international consulting, growing company. And for those of you who do know me, I am the CEO of Inspirit, a coaching and cultural transformation company. And I was taking a class for a year because I'm still learning. We're always still learning.
We're always learning.
And I needed something to help me help the people that I served bump it up a notch. And that's when you and I connected. We were both taking classes for a year, similar kind of classes, and had never met, didn't know of each other. Originally, I was supposed to go to
Ireland,
Dublin, last August, and was not able to go to the master class. Part of the process is taking a master class. I wasn't able to go because I needed to take my daughter to college.
Mm-hmm.
That fate or luck allowed me to need to wait, and that's that gift of understanding why sometimes things happen that you may not be real excited about, and yet if you be patient, you find the gifts. That resulted in me going into Odyssey with Sergio and 3 other gentlemen.
Right.
And we spent how many days together? 4
or 5 days.
4 or 5 days together in Arizona, taking all the knowledge and all the information we had gathered over that past year of study, bringing it together with myself and these 4 gentlemen and the people who led the team, which is Imelda Butler, and really beginning to make it more alive, taking the concepts, the constructs, and making them more alive, that is beyond the regular day-to-day business kind of practices, beyond the regular day-to-day development of people kind of practices. It really moved it to another level. Would you say that?
Yeah, I would say that it also relates to that it's not just about us on how we did in the past, on how we really put it for the future, and how we make it easy to understand for people. And that's where it comes, where they helped us having our own model, our own business model, and a model that will serve the people so they can understand how their business has integrity. By the way, in Chile we speak Spanish.
Yes,
I should
yes.
make this clear. So
Yes.
That's some words maybe can be missing at some times.
You're
So I
doing
apologize
just
for the
fine.
problems.
We'll work together and fill all those pieces in, like we've been.
But the idea is that we see the company as a whole, and as we go in and learn to do some consulting, have some helping on achieving the objectives, to really see where we stand off, and that each part is not a separate part, but everything belongs to a whole. There's integration among all the different pieces, and how do we achieve. So I agree with you that Odyssey gave us that perspective that we have now, gave us a model to really understand the whole business, how it is, and really see then how to go into the different parts of the company to achieve a wonderful result. And I think that was the main part of how we got together to really put our models together, basically, and understanding how, even coming from Chile or you being from the States, at the end, the problems that are between our countries and in our people, in the companies, are basically the same.
They were very much the same. So yes, we did pull some of those models, and the piece I wanted to really thank Sergio and that program and my other peers, Dan and Kevin in the group, really was, it was a place to come with other individuals who really wanted to move past being competitive and really enhance the art of collaboration. Those of you who've been aware of the show before really know that I'm much more into collaboration. I understand how to have the advantage in a lot of ways, business-wise and technology-wise and those kind of pieces. For me, it really was working together to create that advantage for all of us.
And at the end, by sharing, we all gain, and it's by collaborating and not really holding up our knowledge. It doesn't get you anywhere. I mean,
right.
The idea that what we have done, we have shared, and well, then we'll talk about what has been going on after that Odyssey, but we have really shown and proved that collaboration really works out fantastic.
Internationally and internally.
Absolutely.
So some of the gifts that came, and actually we're going to show this piece, one of the gifts that came for me out of this process was actually, as you said, creating the business model. We would go in and we would be serving clients and customers and businesses. However, sometimes it was difficult to really describe how the process works. And so with Sergio's help, the help of the rest of my team, I came in with a draft process, and they really helped me bring it together and make it nice and tight. So I ended up helping co-create. I don't want to say it's mine because these ideas are not original to me. They're from masters before me. It's all information. This is how I've seen it work and be very high-functioning companies. So you know some of this model, so I'm going to introduce you to introduce my model a little bit, if you would, since you're little.
Sure. This model that Gwen developed, but we had the luck to see in this process. It's an upside-down triangle that really contemplates a business model that talks about collaborative culture crystallization.
Right.
Okay, and it has all these pieces. The fun part that I really love that your model is that it's a tri-dimensional model, that it's not just a flat model where you have all the information, but it really becomes a living triangle that then you put it upside down and tells you, of course, where's the base of where we have to focus, and then up the different levels.
Would you like me to pull those different levels now?
Yes, please.
So some of the pieces that the group was actually able to help us with and help in spirit with was getting a little bit more tighter on what it looked like. When you take the inverted triangle, as you can see, and you open up the wings, there's actually 4 wings and a center. And the 4 wings include, as you were talking about, Sergio, really servant leadership living. We love some of the basic tools that are out there. I'm not interested in necessarily going out and recreating the wheel. There's great authors out there. There's great folks who've developed tools. So we, with each company, look at each of their needs and what they need to create servant leadership living lifestyles. The second area we look at, which is also a very important part of business, is keeping that thinking part of business. That's the capacity to envision, to strategically plan, and to move those pieces into action. It's a great thing to have strategic plans and all those pieces if you do not continue to look at that plan and give it life, as Mike Wallace always says, evergreen. If you do not give it life, you have just wasted a lot of time, resources, and assets.
And I would say that many times we're just doing our work and just looking at, we say, instead of looking at the forest just between the trees, and just looking what you were doing, we're taking care of our problems, of everyday problems.
Right.
But at the end, you sit down and say, where am I going? And the world is shifting. And you haven't realized that the world and the customer have changed the taste, that you have gone internationally, that things are going on that you haven't not considered. And the business, somehow you start realizing that it's falling down, that your income is not getting as much as you want. And it's because you haven't really realized that your vision has to be changed, or your mission, or the strategy has to be changed. So I think that that point that you're pointing out is really crucial for anything else to come up later on. First, and it's to have the right vision of where you're going to go and what you want to be in the next 5 years or 10 years. Not even now 10 years, that things change so fast.
Yeah.
But 5 years, you have the vision. So I agree with that point, and that's a very important one.
And there's some companies that I'm aware of right now that are in our area right here in Rochester that are growing so quickly that the vision was only able to be captured the first 2 years. And they have already met that vision in so many ways, and it's only a year out for this group, that they have to reassess it, and it's so important. Again, you put it out there, it's not something to hang on a wall, it's something that's to be used. The third part of that wing, as we look at out of the 4 wings, is really high-functioning teams. And what does high-functioning teams mean? And you can't understand that unless you really go in and assess the company for where the company's at. No 2 companies are ever the same. So someone who walks in and says, this is going to fix it for you, I would be very weary of, and I'd be concerned. And I know you're seeing that too, and we got to see that when we were in Chile.
Absolutely.
And we'll tell you a little bit more about the opportunity to go to Chile.
The experience we got, yeah.
Yes, they'll probably go into part 1 and part 2, I'm sure. So helping teams be high functioning is a part of that wing that's so important. The fourth piece that you guys are able to help me really clarify and give definition to was appreciating the culture, the climate, and the transformational processes that happen in companies. I've always been the one who wants transformational work. And that's just my sweet spot. I know where I fit and I know what I do best, and I think that's one of the things that comes defining when we went through Odyssey, is we got to find that out about ourselves.
And absolutely, and also when you have the tools, you might say, I know that I read in a book, I have some tools how to go into check do the assessment, but then if you don't consider the climate or you don't consider a different culture, then things don't work. Like I have an example from Chile that it's amazing, but a big department store from the States, very large, very important here, they went to Chile, and that was many years ago, and they did not adapt and consider the culture in Chile in this case. Of course, it could happen elsewhere in South America, but in Chile they didn't consider, so they brought all the products, the same products, and their way of doing business was the same as they were doing here, and they failed, and they had to close the doors and go back. And it's unfortunate because they didn't consider what you're talking about now, which is how the culture, how things are being done, how things are, what is normal in that environment, to bring in these new tools or this new. So it's good for products and services. It's always having the culture and the climate really have it in our mind and consider it in the business plan.
And it is continually pushing not only the external climate of those customers we serve, those 2 pieces push our internal workplace too, and leaves things open for transformational work.
Absolutely.
The piece that was a little different, I think, in my work that these guys guys were great for me to help me move forward with stepping forward and putting it right out there. And that was that centerpiece of that triangle, the synergy, the synergistic energy in the middle, which for us, we do know in spirit is a pretty hard name not to understand that it really is about a way in which you choose to live your life, coming back to center and staying very healthy. And that is that one kind of resonating energy that goes through this model of ours that's really pushed our groups forward, excuse me, pushed our groups forward and made them successful as they are. The results then have been creating an environment that capture that, as we talk about the top of the summit, which is now your company, the top of that summit, which is exceptional living and exceptional results for companies. Which is kind of the neat thing as we were working together. Sergio is the CEO, and then in Chile, it's called the Manager General. How do you say it?
Gerente General.
Thank you. My Spanish is a little still working. We're working on me. We're working on me. And we were able to see that top platform for me was actually your top of your summit. And so that's some of the beauty that we were able to blend. A main point of this part of our conversation is we really would like folks to understand whether you're in an organization that is a volunteer organization or a business or a top 500 business, it's really very important to appreciate your own personal business model. And when you're working with new folks who come in to serve you, have them begin to do what is called penning. And have them just pen out on a napkin or a piece of paper or on a whiteboard, or give you a copy of their model so that you can have better clarity about how the process is going to take its form. I have been absolutely guilty of not being able to do that in the past because I didn't know how to put it all together. So part of our gift today is other folks do know how to do that already in our community. We're very excited to bring this concept back and share it again and the value that goes with penning.
And I would add that also gives you an idea if once you are able to show it, first you understand it for yourself, and then the person that is in front of you can see the big picture before he gets into a specific problem that he might have in some area. So at the end that everything leads to a certain purpose and not just having independent solutions. And I think that's a big thing about having the big model, the big benefit of it.
Right. So on that note, we worked together and we had a lot of conversation and we were dreaming in Arizona of what were the possibilities of this group of 5. What could they do? Where could they go? Actually, this group of 6. We have a group of 6, yes. And the gifts that we brought was the ability to help gain clarity. And when we were together, we began to share tools that we each use. And some of them were similar tools, and yet we used them slightly different. Each of us had our own sweet spot to it. And what we began to decide is that we would continue to be much more helpful and powerful as a group who would share the sweetest spots of each of the tools we knew and bring each other forward. The woman who led the group actually thought that we're kind of a unique group.
Special group.
Yes,
we're special, I don't know.
But we better not say that too loud because if there's other folks in that group working.
Yeah, the next one are going to be special too.
That's right. And as a result of that, we took meeting each other to a whole nother level. You want to speak a little bit about how you and I took that to the next level?
Well, I don't know if I can say it now, but we were talking about how we can go to the next level, and we were talking about some tools, and you kindly said, after the class, why don't I assess you? And we stayed until like 12 o'clock at night working on my assessment, that I had knowledge about it, but I have never been debriefed the way In Spirit does. And that really brought us an idea of say, why don't we bring this to Chile and show it to some clients that I have, that my company has. And Gwen said, okay, I'll go for it. If you just tell me when and I'll pick a plane. So we decided at that time that if the moment came right, that you would go to Chile. And being as, I would say that person that really seeks things, as I am. How you
Yes.
use I seek.
You're
the
theoretical,
objective. I'm
searching for the
theoretical.
truth and searching
I
for
just
adventure.
go for it. I got to Chile, got the right team, and called Gwen and said, "Gwen, we're ready. When are you coming?" So this was January, and
Yeah.
then in March I had her there with us, starting a project with 8 managers, high-level managers of I would say the second largest bank in Chile. It's called Banco de Chile. Working with that team, and after that, the idea is that they begin and then they just continue with the rest of their base, which is about 300, 350 people. So she got on the plane and we had a wonderful experience, which before talking about the business of the experience, I would
Right.
like you to tell me about what was your experience arriving to Chile? Because it's a completely
Oh,
different
wow.
world.
Well, the plane ride was substantial. It was a 17-hour journey to get over, and I didn't mind. I also, one of the pieces I think is really important to know is I don't know Spanish whatsoever. I did learn the word Baño,
Baño.
which they said is very important to know.
Bathroom.
And some very small words, but I also felt very comfortable. One of the things that we didn't get a chance to know is that Sergio's English is very good, and he's a very good translator. Because you also studied here in the States.
Yeah, I
You're-
did. I studied business administration in Chile,
Yeah,
5 years, and then I did an MBA at Northeastern University in Boston.
right.
So,
So you had that opportunity to, and I felt very safe and comfortable coming in, even though I didn't speak the language. From touching down, it was going through customs, which is pretty typical. They made me throw my honeydew apple away, my Honeycrisp apple from Rochester away, but that's okay. I took my final bite and put it in, and I was on a new adventure. It was beautiful. It was amazing to come into a culture that had such different beauty than Rochester does in our area. It is the kind of city when you drive down through the city, there are incredible mountains that are so high, and the city feels like it sits right amongst these mountains, and you can just roll down that window and reach out and touch them. The mountains feel that close.
it's funny that in Santiago that you mentioned, we have the Andes Mountains.
Yes.
You were from the middle of Santiago, you can drive up 1.5 hours and be skiing in the ski resorts.
Right.
And then you can drive out 1.5 hours to the other side because it's so narrow.
Right.
And you can be in the beach.
Correct.
So it's very, very nice that you have everything so close, and especially Santiago, that's right under the mountains, in the bottom of the mountains, they're right there.
It was
It's very
very,
nice.
it was very beautiful. And for those of you who don't know, Santiago is in the middle of Chile. So it's pretty much center, right?
Yes.
It is center.
It's about 4 million people there.
And that is the largest congregation
Yes.
of your population.
Yes.
And how large is Chile itself population-wise?
Population is about 16 million.
Right, right. So it's a very smaller group of people, and there was some really interesting differences in business as well as in the culture. So both parts we'll start to introduce some of those differences here. We'll pick it up in our second part, so you'll have to come back and watch that. And the neat pieces that we really learned about Chile was the people were incredibly warm. The 2 words I would say is the people from Chile were incredibly warm to me, and they were very, very sweet. It's probably the sweetest country I have ever been in terms of sweet. And I mean that double side. Very nice people, as well as I've never seen so much sugar.
All the
sugar.
candies, yes.
Everything.
We gave a lot to you.
You
so.
gave it. And yes,
All
and
the
I'm
best-
still trying to lose all of those gifts I got in terms of candy. But it was really incredible. In terms of the people, what I noticed there was very, very different than our culture, is even as it's a very, very walking community. Chile, Santiago, Chile is very accessible. The subway system was incredible.
A very nice subway, a modern subway.
Very modern, very nice. A lot of people travel by it. And this culture is very neat. They're very conservative. When you watch folks walking down the street, the gentlemen are typically dressed either business casual like you or business all the way through. Everybody is dressed to go to work. This was a killer for me, true killer. And that is the women all wear high heel shoes, even on these cobblestone sidewalks.
Yeah, they don't wear the sneakers like here.
They don't wear the sneakers. I will tell you, I did stop and get a pair of sneakers because I did forget mine, and I didn't wear them to and from work. I wore my flip-flops in and out and changed them before I walked in the door. Very different that way. Everybody was dressed very professionally and or neat. So it didn't matter the position that you had or the kind of work you're doing in Chile. Everybody was very attentive to their appearance, and they were going to show their very best to whoever they walked into. And I saw that again and again and again and again in Chile. No matter where I went, that was an ongoing thing.
Yeah, we have a lot of European, I would say, the generations that came in the old days were European, so we have that idea of getting the dress in very classical way and very conservative. You wouldn't see, as you said, some bright colors, but of course the women do.
Right.
But for men, normally it's more the blue, the gray, and the brown probably.
Right.
That's more typical.
And you're right. There are blue, but the women actually don't wear a lot of bright colors either. So for this, this which is from China, because it's an international show, and this is a gift that my daughter brought me, a silk scarf from China, that would not be seen. These brighter colors are not.
From the girls, probably the young girls, yes.
Yeah, very young, and not even very loud like we have here. Not that it's better or worse, it's just different.
It's different.
So in order to be effective in there, I needed to be awake to how I was presenting to the people in the culture and actually be attentive to how I was dressing too.
And I would say also that regardless of those differences that you might see, that are seen, I noticed that people, the way they got your message and they got the work we did, their feelings were at the end the same. It's right there when you say, and it happens to me when I come to the States, that could be so many. This is for me the supermarkets and the big stores. I mean, it's so much bigger, and again, in material things, it's different because you got to have more. Right now, with all the open market, we get not everything, but we get little of it. So it's not so different like maybe 20, 30 years ago when the barriers, when you couldn't import, so it was completely different. But you see that the people, and their needs and what they have, the sufferings they have, and the requirements, at the end, those happen to be the same.
And they are.
And they are, and that's something that, at least for me, gets it's very special, seeing that when we're here, the way we treat each other and the way people, what we say to each other, and the problems we have at home, the problems we have with our peers, the problems we have with our bosses, are essentially the same. We're people everywhere, and that's on one side. You say, how could it be that when we're so far away, and we could be, Chile, South America, but it could be China, or it could be the Middle East, or anywhere. At the end, we are people. We have the same problems, and that's why the way, if we approach life in this serving way, in this loving way, the approach is similar, and our needs are similar, and we can help each other in a similar way, regardless that we're in such different countries and different language.
And that is exactly what my experience was like. I really enjoyed being with the people of Chile. I'm looking forward to going back. And part of what we're going to talk about in our next series is sending our children to carry the message and carry the business journey, carry the cultural journey in ways that helps this world that we continue to grow into be more enhanced. We would like to thank you for joining us. One of the things I didn't get a chance to tell you is that Sergio is actually a magician by trade. And I'm going to ask you to hold that trick to the opening of our next show. Yes, because we've already run out of time. And we want to thank you for joining us for this section and this segment of transitioning through international businesses and culture. I want to thank you, Sergio, for the first half, and we'll be back for the second.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us at our show today. I want to thank Sergio for joining us and completing part 1 of our show. If you have further questions or information or would like to contact us or Sergio, please contact us through the InSpirit website and email that you see currently on your station. Again, thank you. Thank you, Sergio.
This program was produced through Penfield Television in Penfield, New York.